Ronnie, Kim, we're so honored. Welcome to the Strange Grooves podcast.
The Strange Groove, yeah.
Podcast.
Okay.
Welcome.
Happy to be here.
And I
Happy
want
to be
to
with
tell you
you.
guys that this is, sometimes life does funny things, and it brought Charisse and I together, which was awesome. But you guys, and we're going to dive right into this. You guys brought us together, but you're also our 100th episode. So for us to be talking to you guys on our 100th episode, without any real planning or anything, thank you so much for joining us. We're thrilled to be speaking with you, especially, during these times. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you. So we're
It's a pleasure.
That's thrilling. We're honored. Thank you. 100th episode is some kind of century in there, aren't we, Kim?
What's that?
Some kind of century thing happening there.
Yes, yeah,
awesome. So
the centenary episode.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. You know how bad I am with words.
Yes.
I love that.
we're going to use that when we promote this.
Yeah.
So where do we find you guys today?
Calgary.
Yeah, Ronnie's in Calgary, and I'm in Vernon, British Columbia, in the Okanagan Valley.
Awesome.
Oh, beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, it is indeed. Have either of you ever been west? No.
I've been to Calgary, but never.
Calgary. Okay.
Yeah, I've been to Calgary and I've been to Victoria, BC. So I've been to they're both beautiful places.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of in between the two of those, Victoria and Calgary, that is.
Yeah.
And you're in St. John, are you?
You're in St. John.
Yeah.
Nice. The St. John is really the last time we were there. Got to walk around a little bit, and it's really it's looking better. St. John is really seems to be coming to life. It's a very attractive downtown, and I love going through the old graveyard there.
Oh yes.
Yeah. It's right close to the theater too, so it's always a fun.
Oh yeah, easy. Right across the street, in fact.
It is.
Yeah.
I think who was it here? I think Allen Ginsberg, the poet, was here at one point. I think this is what I've heard. And he was here one time in St. John, I think visiting Alden Nolan because they were buds. And he was like, I never seen a city that had a cemetery at its heart. And I was like, that is so St.
Yeah,
John.
that's true. Yeah.
I like to go down and hang out at the morgue. Just to keep it, keep the theme
Yeah,
going.
I'm more into the. You're into the more recently deceased, apparently.
Welcome to Strange Grooves, everyone. No, that's true. Yeah, no, St. John, we've definitely been on the rise. We've lived here our whole lives. We're St. John born and raised. And we've definitely noticed a surge in the past 5 or so years. A lot of new people moving here, which is amazing. A lot of new businesses are opening. A lot of the businesses during the pandemic, I mean, certainly are still struggling, but have found some innovative ways. I'm sure just like, your places of residence have, tried to stay in the run. But yeah, I mean, we're Canada's oldest city. Sometimes I don't think the people here always remember that and appreciate, the architecture and some of the history we have here. Not all of it is, maybe the best to remember also, as we're starting to be reminded here in Canada, but we try to be very prideful from where we live.
Well, and so you should. It's love coming to the Maritimes, and we love traveling.
Isn't
being a Canadian band? What's that, Ron?
Isn't Donald Sutherland from there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Aha. See, I know where we are. Go on.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, old friend of yours, Ken Tobias, is from here and is still here.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to send his regards. Say his hello. Says hello.
That's beautiful. He's quite the artist now. We see on Facebook
Yes,
all the
he
time.
has
I'm sure you know.
Yeah. He has an exhibit right now happening in Uptown St. John. So he's keeping busy.
That's right. He posted that last week. Yeah. Well, we're thrilling to see that.
Yeah.
Go on, Kim.
Ronnie, you should sit up just a little bit because your chin is out of the picture, and you look really weird with no chin.
I haven't shaved.
Don't say that.
Oh well, hey, that's all the better. You got a little bit of that. Well, my look, I haven't shaved either for a while.
Right then, your wife.
So, for those listening, they've heard us talk about this probably over 100 times, guaranteed, about why we're best friends, why we have this show, how it all came together. And, you know, we did tell you, you know, briefly at the show, but this, like I said, is just so full circle for us. So
Yeah.
why don't you tell them a little bit about how we met?
Yeah. So I had this crazy idea one day I thought, wouldn't it be fun to learn how to roller skate? And so Kate was a captain at the roller derby league in St. John the Fog City Rollers. And before that, I knew her through work. I think I like tweeted at her once asking to use a photo for one of the stories that I was writing. And anyway, so I showed up and I was like, oh, Kate, it's, you work at this company. I work at Huddle. Small
right?
town. And anyways, and then we started chatting. I think we got on the topic of music and I was like, man, like, I love I love a lot of like classic rock, a lot of Canadian stuff. Like I love the Stampeders. And she was like,
we were like, what?
What?
I was like, do you have records?
And I was like, yes,
I
have
have
records?
And
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean you have records? Because I mean, not also like meeting people who also collect vinyl is a whole thing, but even just people who love music. I mean, with so many streaming services and things now, like, you know, we're a little bit eclectic on our taste and what we collect. We have a huge collection. But yeah, and it was, I don't know, it's
yeah, like I guess long story short is like I never learned how to roller skate. Well, I could skate
there's
without
still time.
I can skate without dying, but I wasn't certainly not good enough to be on a roller derby team. But we created a podcast, which I think is so much better and more fun.
Well, hey, yeah. So, but listen, where did you come across our music? Was it like your parents or grandparents' record collections or something?
I think
your older brothers and sisters?
Yeah, well, for me, like I'm an only child, and I think
same.
it was, I think it was through I think both of our parents. For me, like I grew up listening to CFBC here in St. John, which is played a lot of older music, and that's just sort of what my mom always had on the radio, and I always used to ask her like all the time, like especially as a teenager, I got really into it, and she's like an encyclopedia for that stuff, and I'm just like, oh, like every time like a song was like catchy, I'm like, who sings this? And she would just know. And I know I've probably heard it was probably Sweet City Woman or Oh My Lady or something. I was just I'm like, who sings this? And then she's like, oh, the Stampeders. And then I just dived in and like started learning more about you and became a fan. So
well, superb, wonderful. Yeah.
We I got it from my dad. My dad loved your music and he took me to 3 or 4 shows at the Imperial Theater growing up. And you know, so when I heard that Charisse liked their music, I mean, there's people who love classic rock like Fleetwood Mac and all the, you know, great bands. But I really like a lot of Canadian music, right? And my dad loved Canadian rock music. And he would always go to all the bars and stuff when I was younger and I couldn't go. So he would always get the CDs that he'd buy at the show and put them in the car and I'd listen to them going to school. And I remember Charisse and we just said, well, shit, let's just hang out and spin some records, smoke a couple joints, chill and listen to our record collections. And after a couple of weeks, we became pretty close. And one day we just hit record on an old Zoom recorder and we started the show. And we've been to 2 of your shows since. And you know, it's just been really interesting, the opportunities that we've had by talking to people about music. So for us, you today is a huge honor and opportunity for us. So again, thank you so much for the time.
Oh, I know, it's a pleasure. And so, you know, and all besides, we're probably being seen by people, more people, you know, from your generation than our own on your show, and that's cool. We gotta love that. But you know, you're talking about roller skating. We used to play in the middle of a roller rink. There was a place in Kitchener, Ontario, and this is before we had any records or anything, but we'd play there maybe 4 times a year. And basically the stage was right in the middle. It was in the middle of the rink. And so all night long when you were playing, all these kids were roller skating around you. And in order to get safely back and forth, you know, I don't know what to call them, the referees of the rink, the guys with a whistle who tried to keep order, they would have to make a path for us and slow this down so we could come and go from the stage. But I never tried roller skating. It looked terrifying.
You remember what I did once? I yelled out on the PA system, everybody go the other way. Crash, crash, crash.
Yeah, whoops, just taking direction, right? That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, that's thrilling to hear. We started out in Calgary as teenagers, got together with our buds and so on else at the time. Kim, different than me, when I was 14 or so, I got together with other guys that in the neighborhood that knew how to play, Terry Whitford, my buddy, and so on else. And we'd learned to play instrumental songs only. We didn't even sing yet. Ventures, Walk Don't Run, that one, and and others. So eventually we learned to sing and so on, and then eventually the Stampeders fell together, and then we left Calgary as a 6-piece band in 1966. Kim, take it from there.
And we survived until the present day.
Yeah.
No, that was our beginnings were, that was it. We had a manager who had a vision. As young musicians, you want to think about having a career, but I literally didn't know a single person who was a professional musician. And this was living in Calgary. And I mean, we didn't know how you went about that, but this man, Mel Shaw, he got talent together for the Saturday afternoon TV dance party. And so he got us on there. And that was basically, once you got on the TV dance party, then you got more gigs because everybody knew the name of the band. You became one of the best known bands in town, like very quickly. So we worked every weekend, this 6-piece band with me and Ronnie. Well, this is before Ronnie, actually, me and Rich Dodson. And I met Rich by putting an ad in the paper in Calgary, and the bass player that he was working with, they had a band together, but they didn't like their drummer. So I said I was a drummer looking for a band, and they were a band looking for a drummer. So I basically joined up with them, and then we got on TV. We became a fairly well-known local band, and we were. All the while, the manager is trying to get us out of Calgary to somewhere where we can have a professional life and work towards getting records out and becoming famous, right? And even in Calgary, we recorded single records. We put out records that we recorded at the TV studio. There was no recording studio anywhere near. And so we put out records there. So about a year before we left Calgary for Toronto, which was 1966, Ronnie joined the band, and the other guy we had on guitar departed. We had Ronnie in the band, so we had the core of the Stampeders, me and Ronnie and Rich Dodson, and Ronnie's older brother, my older brother, and the bass player that had come to my place to meet me in the first place, a fellow named Brendan Little, and they're all still around and in Calgary, but they were all older than us by about those 6-7 years. They were our big brothers for sure. And so after a couple of years on the road with the 6-piece band, they, being the more mature members, decided they just had enough of this. This was a hard life, We were working in the bars in Ontario basically 6 nights a week, probably 40 weeks a year, and the other dozen weeks or so, we managed to have most of the week off and be in Toronto, and we would go out and play weekend gigs, summer pavilions, dances, things like that. But we spent years playing in the bars from 9 to 1 in Ontario, 9 to 2 or 8 to 2 in Quebec, depending on where you. What's that?
Plus a Saturday afternoon matinee.
Oh God, yeah. I try to get those out of my memory. I'm sorry. I'm glad.
Every harmonica player gets, can I get up and jam with you guys? I play the triangle.
There was a guy at a bar up in somewhere in northern Quebec, and we had to play the Saturday afternoon matinee. And this was, we would get sometimes, there'd be a crossover. The new band coming in would arrive maybe on Sunday, and the matinee would be going on. And so there was an American band called the Windsor Brothers playing there. Do you remember them, Ronnie? Oh, and so people would get up, they'd have a talent contest, and they'd give a bottle of champagne or whatever to the winner. So this man got up and he sang "It's Now or Never" by Elvis. And the band is playing, and then he hit his big note. He hit his big Elvis note that he was going to hold, and he's standing up there and he's belting out this note, and he's so determined he's going to win the prize. He ran out of air and he passed out, and he fell backwards flat on his back on the stage, and the band kept playing. And I remember the guitar player standing like, looking down at them, and they just finished the song, and the guy came to and he lost. He didn't get his bottle of champagne.
I think the
But
go-go
that was the deal, 6 nights a week plus a Saturday afternoon matinee. It was grueling, but you learned how to play. You got good.
I think the go-go dancer with the big tits that I was
The best, sure, they
ended up
always
with
won.
won the contest, didn't she?
Yeah, no doubt.
Sorry, ladies.
Oh no.
No, not at all.
It's rock and roll.
It's rock and
It's
roll.
rock and
All
roll.
good. Yeah, no, all good. No, wow, what a story.
So yeah, those were. Then we did 5 years of working like that before we would put out records. We were always pooling our money. We lived on a shoestring, like very, because literally half of the money we made went into promotional material or the occasional recording session, stuff like that. And we worked at that for 5 years until in 1970 we recorded "Carry Me," and it got on the radio. And even that, "Carry Me," seeing how we were always so poor and so broke, there was a studio in Toronto that advertised a half price, and studios are running about $100 an hour back then. That was a lot of money in the 60s. And so they were going to charge you $50 an hour if you would come in at like 10 o'clock at night and work until the morning. You could work right through the night. So the engineer, that paid for the engineer and the session, and that's how we did our first single. We went in an all night session in this studio and recorded "Carry Me" and "Flip Side," which just can't remember what that was now. Do you remember what that was, Ronnie?
The Grange.
No. No. There was Arc Sound or what was it called? No, it wasn't. Yeah, maybe it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter what it was called, but that's what we did. "Carry
We'll
Me."
give you a taste of our first hit, okay?
Okay.
Of course, that we can't play together, eh? You know that there's a latency issue with Zoom calls. There's a good second or second and a half in between.
Oh.
Yeah. So all that stuff you see on TV with everybody playing together on Zoom, those are all little productions.
Oh my God.
Somebody has to lay it down, send it to somebody else, and then they lay down their part and so on. You build it that way and then put it all together. I'm sorry to have to tell you that. It's not Zoom magic.
I didn't suck, did I?
Not at
You
all.
kind of,
There's a video, I'm pretty sure online, of Kate. And no, I thought it was "Carry Me." It was actually "Hit the Road, Jack." But one of the times we saw you guys at the exhibition in Fredericton, and that's the first time we saw you guys together. And I think it was, we were like going off, and there's a video that was,
Oh my God.
remember?
I now know what you're speaking of.
So
yeah.
there, it was hosted by a radio station, obviously, like Up 10 whatever in Fredericton. Anyway, so you guys were playing "Hit the Road, Jack." I thought it was "Carry Me," but the whole night's a blur. So we were playing "Hit the Road, Jack," and like Kate and I are like just rocking out, going off, like people were looking at us in the audience. Anyway, so one of the DJs is off on the side of the stage, and he like just focuses on us the whole time.
But it's like a month later after the show that we see this, 107.6 radio
Right.
station, and we see like it's the Stampeders show, and we're like, oh, we were at that. We're in the front row, and all you can hear is us screaming.
Yeah.
And like us just bopping and dancing around. Like you'll see like there's like people, like nodding their head, enjoying like.
So when the tour starts back up, we better be getting a call because we are ready to
we're
go.
your professional hype limit.
Oh, all right. Indeed. I hope that, what was it, 29? It was the spring of 2019 that we were in St. John last, in the Maritimes in general. And so it would be, next year we could be due. I think we'll come. I think we're trying to work on a BC tour in the spring, and then maybe summer. It'd be nice to come east in the summer or in early September.
Yeah.
Early autumn is gorgeous. So I mean, I'd like that.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you posted.
Right.
Yeah, the theater here just got a brand new like renovation, so it's beautiful.
Oh.
Oh, it's a great theater anyway. The Imperial.
It's
lovely.
even more beautiful now. I'm
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks great.
Oh,
So-
good. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And then we went on to have hit records, as Kim said, starting with "Carry Me," 70, 71. We had our global hit, "Sweet City Woman." And as Kim put it once, Richard brought Sweet City Woman in on guitar, among one or two other songs, but he just brought it into rehearsal on guitar. So we kind of naturally fell into it. There was very little instructions on what to play on bass for me or what to play on drums for Kim. So we fell into it quite naturally, but it was determined when we were recording it that I think our manager or the engineer or something like that, no, the manager, I think it was, that said, you know, there's a line in the song that says, my banjo and me, we got a feel for singing. Why don't you use a banjo for that opening riff and the riff all the way through and so on? And Rich said, I don't know how to play banjo. And I'm pretty sure it was me that said, tune it like a guitar and then play. You got the sound, and you'll know the chords and whatnot. So he went to rent a banjo at Long and McQuaid, a 5-string professional Gibson banjo and so on else for a week. And we recorded with it and so on, etc. And recorded it on banjo. We tried to emulate it afterwards because it was difficult to get a banjo to sound good on a great big PA with a big rock band when the damn thing kept feeding back. Anyway, so we tried our best, but anyway, so Rich takes the banjo back to Long McQuaid, the rented banjo, right? And we knew this salesman there, Bob Abbott. Oh, he was a bring on the ladies, boys, one of those guys. And so he said, oh, yeah. So when the song became a hit and said, you know, every banjo player that would come in and want to buy the banjo, a banjo or whatever, the salesman would say, this is the banjo that played Sweet City Woman. Oh yeah, well, give me that one. And someone else, next, this is the banjo that played Sweet City Woman. And nobody knows where the real one went.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he says to us, you wouldn't believe how many times I sold that banjo.
Because it's iconic now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody has the banjo, but nobody knows for sure. But yeah. So why don't you ask us a question? What do you want to know?
I want to know. So you told, like, it's so cool to hear the background on Sweet City Woman. I want to know, because I heard there's a cool, funny story maybe around Hit the Road Jack and getting Wolfman on the track.
That's Ronnie's story. Yeah, I've told that story on my Facebook show. But you have the real deal here now. You got Ronnie, so he can give it to you. Okay, Case, take it away.
We did an American Song Festival in Saratoga Springs, New York, and we heard about all these huge globally well-known stars on this show, from Ray Charles to Santana to Jose Feliciano to it went on and on. And anyway, so we're there for a 4 or 5 day stint. ABC television network was going to film it all. It was an amphitheater kind of with a roof, but open air for 10,000 people live, and ABC television all over the States. So I phone up my babe, who I was living with in Toronto, and say, hey, fly down here. It's an 1.5-hour flight or whatever. And we're here, we're stable for 5 days or so. And yeah, for sure. Okay. Long story short, I go to the airport and to go meet my babe, right? And meanwhile, I must tell you that I was always the black sheep of the band. I was always the one carrying joints and having joints, and someone else corrupting my friend Kim. Often he would try to refuse. I would force him. I would, hold him.
Yeah. It took a long time, 10, 20 seconds,
So anyway, hey, I'm waiting at the airport, etc. And my woman has not come in yet from the plane. And I'm looking at one of the gates, and out walks Wolfman Jack with another guy. And I go, oh my God, I gotta go over and say hi. So I go traipsing over there and so on. And his manager intercepts me and says, hi, can I help you? Well, he's used to this. I said, hi, yes, I'm Ronnie King with the Stampeders. See the poster? We're on this show as well. And Wolfman Jack's about 20 feet behind, kind of rubbing his eyes or whatever. And And oh wow, look at this, Wolf! Look at this poster. And Ronnie here's on the show too. Oh yeah, what's your name? And his manager introduces me. This is Ronnie King of the Stampeders. So Wolfman Jack says, "Oh hi, Stan." I said, no, I'm not Stan Peters. I'm Ronnie King of the Stampeders. In fact, if you want to get real, I was born in Holland. My real name is Cornelius. Oh, Cornelius, I like that name. No, but I mean, I'm Ronnie King. Oh, Cornelius, you don't have any smoke, would you? I said, oh, geez, you came to the right guy. But I brought a couple to the airport here. You can have one for the ride to the hotel. We're all there together for about 5 days. And someone else, he says, "You got any more?" I says, "Yeah, I got a whole ounce. I'll share with you. Happy to share with you." Oh, I can see it now. He puts his arm around me, starts rattling off. Number 50 with a bullet, me and Cornelius, my man. What's your name again? Ronnie, right, my man. And so he's already got us going up the hit parade with a bullet. And so for sure, I no sooner got back to the hotel than he's already found my phone number in which room, or else I gave it to him. Hey, Cornelius, that was some badass shit, man. I mean, is that the shit that killed Elvis? No, Elvis was not dead yet, but
Yeah.
I was like, wait, you're
Embellishing.
killed Elvis.
he did say that once, but after the fact. So I couldn't get rid of the man. Well, okay, your place or mine. I said, well, come on up, etc. So he comes up, and this is later at night, and so on. And he says, oh, there was a big party. There was a big party for all the celebrities in the main banquet room, etc. So I was going to, go down there and a couple of joints and go outside with Wolfman, all that. But no, I couldn't get out of my room. Ring! Hey, Cornelius. Yeah, well, aren't we going to that party? Yeah, we'll do that after, and so on. So anyway, I went down for a little bit and so on, and so the start of it, but go back to my room, and Wolfman, come on up. I said, fine. So he's there, a couple of guys, or a guy follows in behind him who we knew because we did an interview with him, and so on else. And Wolfman is kind of hemming and hawing at the door, and the guy, I said, well, are you doing an interview, Wolfman? And he says, well, look, I don't want it to be getting in print now that the Wolfman be smoking dope and so on, right? And the kid says, well, that's fine. I'll smoke some with you and so on. All right, close the door. So we close the door. Wolfman Jack's into stories about him on Midnight Special. And he said, and that radio station I was on was 100,000 watts. They could hear me in Russia. Hello, China, Wolfman calling. And he's doing that. And we're mesmerized. We just couldn't believe it. Meanwhile, it's 3 a.m. And I said, whoa, no, Wolfman. I promised Jose Feliciano I'd get him high and that he might be waiting down there.
Oh, no.
Oh well, maybe we'll see if that party's still going. So I go down there and I saw Paul Williams. I said, here, somebody have this joint.
Oh my gosh.
Saw him the next day.
So,
four people.
So on top of that, the next day, I'm talking to Mel, the manager, and he says, what's Ronnie got going on? And I said, I don't know. What do you mean? He says, well, Jose Feliciano, I was riding up in the elevator with him and he was saying, does anybody know where I can find Ronnie King?
First it was Wolfman.
Yeah. But you were the most famous guy. You were the most famous guy on the set. I can't believe all those
When you have good,
all those musicians didn't have their own pot.
everyone knows who you are.
Yeah, it's because you had
I was
the
the only crazy Canuck carrying it,
Yeah.
I know. I get that.
Well, that's kind of so from there, I guess, like from that, like, did it just when you guys went to record the song, you gave him a call, like, hey, will you do this? Or
Yeah.
Just hit it off, and we became pals and so on else, and we kept in touch. Us in Toronto, him in Los Angeles, and so on else, and we were recording "Hit the Road Jack." in Toronto, and I was singing lead and so on, and I was trying to be Ray Charles, I was trying to be hip. And at the end, I was trying to be scatting, and my woman kicked me out. Well, I don't know what to do. Well, she won't kick me out. And I'm doing a bad job. I said, no, I'm no scatter. I'm no Ray Charles, okay? And we're doing the white version here. So anyway, our manager, I think, or maybe Kim, said, why don't we call Wolfman Jack up and get the real thing going? Because I said, oh yeah, at one point I said, I'm going to call my friend Wolfman Jack. I'm no Ray Charles. So, hello, Cornelius. And I started imitating him. They said, hey, let's call the real guy and see if he'll do it. So sure enough, well, come on down here, bring the tracks, and we'll overdub and do the whole thing. So we're in the studio in Los Angeles. I'll try to keep it short. And Wolfman Jack's in one isolated little area, and I'm in another, and so on else. And the people behind the studio window are going, okay, go ahead, boys, and so on. And so we're not coming up with a lot in the conversation, because it was like a phone call and then play the track, which was pre-recorded already. So we did the phone call, hello. And so I'm going, oh yeah, Wolfman, take me out and all this. We're not coming up with much. And so I said, well, I got an idea. Why don't you offer to call my baby and see if you can straighten her out for me, that not kick me out or what have you, and then insinuated as if you're trying to horn in on my babe. Yeah, not a bad idea. So we played the song. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. So it just stopped. And I'm going, well, Wolfie, you got to do the thing as someone else. And then meanwhile, the producers are going, people, time is money. And so on. I'm going, oh, go Wolf, you're going to do that. Hey, Cornelius, up yours. This is what I get. So, and that's how we got on, and he remembered forever. And anytime we had a concert, the CNE grandstand opening for the Beach Boys, Wolfman, will you come and do this show with us? Yeah, I'll be right up, man. A CBC TV show that's online. Check out Hit the Road. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
I'm so pissed that they didn't use the real Wolfman more, because he was really there. CBC, somebody said, let's use him in a real blurred fashion, whatever else. It was like he was, super, he may as well have been in Los Angeles but he was right there, and we could have had a real time of it, but no, they won't let me produce it.
I mean, he flew all the way from LA just to have some more of your pot.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we've got we've got some pretty good weed here in Canada, especially now that it's legal.
Yeah, I'm doing the little vape pens.
Oh yes, I use those. They're great. They're very convenient.
Little sativa.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they hit you. They hit you hard.
So
yeah, so
another thing I wanted to ask you guys about too was you guys of course spent a lot of time in Toronto in the mid 60s in the Yorkville scene, and that scene, that time period, so many other bands and artists, Canadian groups in particular, either got their start, got big there, or they were there and before they moved to LA. I guess I'd love to know kind of what you remember from that time and sort of what that scene was like and what it was like for you guys as musicians then.
Well, it was our very first gig when we came to Toronto was in they were coffee houses. They weren't bars, right? Because the drinking age at that time in Ontario was 21. The people that came down to the village were all the suburban high school kids, basically, and university students, sort of thing. And it was basically a weekend place, except in the summertime when it was busy every night. But yeah, we played in this little coffee house called the El Patio, and they were just like one right after the other. There's probably 10 venues on within about 2 blocks on both sides of the street, and that's what the village was. And the interesting thing was, it was in a inner city, which since those times now is a very gentrified, very exclusive neighborhood. But at the time, you could get a cheap room and everything there, right? And so there were all kinds of hippies living there, and so yeah, it was the most happening place we'd ever seen. We came from Calgary, where they would, in the mid 60s in Calgary, they'd roll up the streets at 6 o'clock on Friday, deader than a doornail downtown. And And so when we came east, it was just so much more progressive and so much livelier. It was way more people, and it was a really, really, really exciting time. And we were professional musicians. We were doing it. We were making that our lives. Even if it was, spending most of our time playing in bars all over the province, sort of thing. That first little adventure at the El Patio was a very cool week. I tell the story about David Clayton Thomas had the biggest band in Toronto at the time. They were called the Boss Men, David Clayton Thomas and the Boss Men. And so one night he shows up at the El Patio with maybe 3 or 4 nights of working there, and so we all hustle over to his table afterwards, ask him what he thought of the show, and he looks up at us and he says, "Well, boys, I think you should go down and see Ronnie Hawkins and fly back to Calgary." And so we were like, on the one hand, devastated because he obviously didn't think much of the band, but on the other hand, I thought, wow, he thinks we can afford to fly.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, years later, after Sweet City Woman, we played at the Whiskey A Go-Go in LA when we went on our first trip to LA to meet all the record company people and all this stuff. And he shows up again and he says, "Well, man, I really want to congratulate you guys for, having a big hit record." He says, "I love it. He says, I love that guitar solo. Not jazzy. He's so jazzy, And so we're playing and he's waiting for the guitar solo. And we get to the guitar solo. And just as Richard is about to go, the string breaks. And the whole solo is just a mess. So he never did get to see us do anything good. We went to try and find him afterwards. He wasn't there.
Oh my God. Wasn't meant to be. Now or never, right? Not meant.
Hey,
It was so surprising for us to be playing at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and one of the main clubs in Los Angeles, whatever. And he comes down with Kelly J. He was there with Kelly.
Oh, that's
J.
right. They were old pals, though. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So and we're thinking, holy geez, he's in such a pseudo jazz rock band, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. What goes up? and we're a little pop band. You're coming to see us?
Oh,
for the jazzy solo.
Sorry.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is it true that you guys wore tailored matching suits before, back in the day, like when back in Toronto? Sort of that's how you guys kind of differentiated yourselves. You had like all matching suits, like.
Well, they were not matching suits as much as there was a fashion at the time, like denim clothes. Beige denim was very much in fashion. So beige denim jeans, and you could buy the jean jackets, but instead of being blue jeans, they were beige denim. So they were suitable for throwing in the bathtub with a box of Tintex dye. And so our manager's wife she took a bathtub and she put the dye in, and she dyed all these outfits for us. And we had purple and we had pink. And so, yeah, here were these 6 guys with dyed denim pants and jackets. So they matched, and we all had the same boots. We had bought these kind of cowboy boot, these cut off cowboy boot things. And we all had black hats. And so we were doing the Calgary image. And so we were an odd looking thing because Toronto was rhythm and blues and hippies, right? Yeah. And so everybody had either long hair or they looked slick. And they actually did wear, like, it was very common for musicians to be dressed up, get yourself a nice suit for on stage, a tuxedo maybe, or even just a nice suit. And that's what a lot of musicians were wearing. And then it was the blend. Then we were starting in the mid 60s, of course, the hippie thing was starting. So, it was ragged, right? Old t-shirts, whatever you had, and be as unkempt looking as possible. And we were this other weird thing that, and it was seriously embarrassing a lot of the times. We'd show up and walk on stage. It was like, oh no.
We didn't like to be called the Stampeders initially and so on else. And we were going, what the hell? And our manager said, yeah, we're going to do this image thing and so on. And we've got the name picked out already. Guess what it is? And I think Kim said, please, man, not the Stampeders. Right? And he
Yes.
said, yeah, what's the deal there? Come on, man. The Stampeder football team, Stampede City Motors, everything in Calgary picks up on the biggest tourist attraction here. And of course, Calgary Stampede, but said, well, guess what? They don't know that in the rest of the world. And what you're supposed to be is cowboys who play rock and roll, all right? Not country and Western. So, well, that's interesting. Yeah, and they don't know that in New York. They didn't know about Calgary. Okay, so we toured
Yeah.
the world calling ourselves that.
Nice pitch, Mel, but we still hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Did you,
Well,
I'm curious, did you have a name picked out that you would have gone with if you didn't go with Stampeders?
well, before that,
No, we had a terrible name. The band that I was in, or that was made up by most of us, of most of us before we became the Stampeders. We were called the Rebounds, which was an equally horrible name, and so we really did never. We never had what we considered a great name, but the name becomes what it is, right? It doesn't, or whatever your level of success is, that's how valuable your name is. And so it's worked out in the long run.
Right.
We can't get rid of it now.
I'd say so.
No, you're kind of past that, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Discography.
My favorite all-time band name is the Tragically Hip. I thought that was the coolest name I'd ever heard when I started hearing about them.
Yeah.
It's a cool name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of music, I'd kind of like to hear a little bit more about each of your influences in music, because I know that one of the things I appreciated about your band is that you're all multifaceted in playing instruments and playing with each other. And you talk about that growing up, how you would meet certain people and everybody would play, and then you would find different instruments. So I'm curious about what you were listening to, maybe like that got you into playing music, and what you're listening to now, during the pandemic. I'm just curious about music.
Well, I think probably true of Ronnie too, but what we had mostly to listen to when we were in our teens. And I mean, I started playing at 15, and I was listening to pop music for a couple of years before that, for sure. But it was basically whatever was on the radio. So it was top 40. And in Calgary, they even restricted, like you hear about the Rolling Stones and a lot of the English bands that were raised on rhythm and blues, or blues. They got into that. Calgary, there was no. I never heard the blues until I got to Toronto, or really had. Calgary did not. No one played that music, and so that did not influence us. We did not have any roots in that kind of music. But pop music, and the Beatles, of course, just blew everything open. They became so big, and all of the English bands, the Beatles, the Zombies, the Stones. But I was not a Stones fan. Back in those days, you'd either be a Beatles fan or a Rolling Stones fan, because they had really different fundamental influences going. And so I was a Beatles guy. But Elvis before that, my older brother, my mother were huge Elvis fans. So I heard a lot of Elvis as I was growing up. And then just all the pop music of the 1950s for me, which was, I was a kid in the 50s. And so, I mean, guys like Dean Martin, you would hear, all this kind of stuff. So it all is with you and stays with you, and it transmutes as you begin to develop your own thing. You have bits of all this stuff that you take with you, and it just becomes what you are. And when we hit Toronto, literally in the village, almost most of the clubs had a rhythm and blues band playing, and we were. When we first came to Toronto, we were not a top 40 band. We were basically playing a lot of the songs from the late 50s, like early rock and roll. We went with that, and that was different too, because it was not, the songs were like 10 years old, and so it seemed to us that they were from another era. And but those are the early influences, and then from the mid 60s onward and into the 70s, so much happened, and the sound of music changed so radically between say 1966 when we showed up in Toronto, and even 1971 or 72 when we recorded. And I'm listening for my Facebook show. I'm listening to all the old Stampeder albums, and I'm not a guy who listens to the old stuff very often, but this whole pandemic has put me in that position where I've been listening to all the old songs. I really developed a much greater appreciation for what we did and what we were. But it also very significant of how each album marks a change, not just in the progress and the development of the band, but also of the technology, because it was just moving so rapidly. The Carry Me was done in an 8-track studio. Now, our earlier records were 4-track, and before that, it was just a home tape recorder sort of thing, is what basically, as far as tape went. And then for the Sweet City Woman album, the 16-track studio opened in Toronto, the very first one, and that's where we recorded that Against the Grain album. And subsequent, I think we did 3 albums there. But the technology was getting better all the time. You know, the engineers were getting better. Everybody was learning they were learning their craft. As simple as that, because it was all so new. And just all the recording devices, compressors, all kinds of, various sound enhancing electronic devices were being invented like every day. There was a new thing coming on, and suddenly you didn't use a tuning fork to get a note to tune your guitar. It was a big box with a wheel that went around and strobed, and when it quit strobing, it was in tune. Or that string, that note. And so all these things were new. There was always something new technologically. And that's still going on, but the level that technology is at today is, oh God, there's no comparison to what was happening in the 70s. But the 70s were remarkable. You'll notice the Sound of Music production just changed radically from the beginning of the decade to the end. And so it was from that perspective, it was very exciting. And also, our development as a band and our ability in the studio got better and better with every album.
I think Jimmy Page recently said, you can call me old all you want, but the 70s, the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s will never be reproduced to the extent that we were out there rocking with it, and so on else. I, on the other hand, came from Europe. I was born in Holland and came here to Halifax. I landed in Halifax with the boat. And very similar to Eddie Van Halen and his family, who went to America, but I went to Canada with my family. Landed in Halifax, took a train from Halifax to Calgary, where we already had aunts and uncles who put us up for a month or two till we found our own place. Oh my God, no, you don't. You have to leave a message. Leave a message.
What happened?
No, leave a message.
Yeah, then all your devices are going off. I love it.
Popular. What can we say?
Anyway, my grandfather played in a Dixieland jazz band in Holland when I was just a toddler up till I left, 7 years old, and so on else. And a lot of the music from the 40s, 5'2", eyes are blue, but oh, what old feet can do, that sort of thing, and so on else. And as a result, my mother could sing very well. She often, at 17, 18 years old, would be hanging out at the club my grandfather would be playing and so on else. And if the lead singer was a little too pissed off for getting drunk or whatever, my grandfather would call his daughter, honey, get up here and sing one note. I'm just a gigolo, and everywhere I go, my mom would just sing anything there was and so on else. So that was my very early musical influence. In fact, I was sure that my grandfather was going to give me that snare drum when I was a kid, and he denied it. And, we almost got into an argument. And I said, well, you did. You told me you were going to give me a snare drum. I never told the kid that, and someone else. He must have been dreaming. Anyway, been around music all my life, and so we come to Canada and someone else, and my older brother Van, who ended up in the Stampeders, he was very much into playing the vinyl records and similar artists of what Kim was talking about, from Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, to Fats Domino, to all those artists of that. And Roy Orbison was big. We went to see him about 4, 5 or 6 times live in Calgary. And my brother Van was so hip with Orbison that he could reach the notes and sing the notes. So that became a large part of our show, as well as Kim's brother had a great voice to do Tom Jones style and so on else. But that's eventually what the clash we ran into, because those older guys wanted to do older styles, and us younger guys wanted to do Lovin' Spoonful and Creedence Clearwater, and as far as cover tunes went. So we were influenced by that. And eventually those older guys could kind of feel that just sick of this one-nighter, sick of the 6 nights a week and matinee and all that. You guys go on and do it without us. So the 3-man band went on in the late 60s, 68, 69, to carry on as a 3-man Stampeders. And lo and behold, 1970 came Carry Me. So like that. However, I was always influenced, but not necessarily stylized myself after Steely Dan, that sort of, music and whatnot. And I had a house band here in Calgary during the years we weren't apart. We were not together. and we were, I called it sophisticated rock and roll. We would do Steely Dan. We would do Robert Palmer. Might as well face it, you're ridiculous.
Something really cool.
We're showing.
Oh, yeah.
So here's something really funny. So everything on this side of the record is Steely Dan. Everything here.
No kidding.
And then everything else is everything else. But this is all Steely Dan.
She's a huge fan.
That looks like pretty much all of Steely Dan there. That's a lot of
It
albums.
is, except for the 2 that just came out for Record Store Day.
For Record Store Day, yeah. Apparently there's a vinyl Stampeder record available for
We
Record
have it
Store
on
Day.
order.
Oh, it's on. Yeah, we have it on order.
I might have known.
It is on order, but that's so cool. Wow.
Yeah, it is cool to be still having some vinyl. So obviously, you've got a turntable and everything to play these albums?
Yep.
Isn't that nice? Now, from a young person's perspective, I mean, what do you feel about the sound of vinyl? What do you think about it as compared to the sound of digital recording?
I wouldn't say I don't consider myself an audiophile by any means. So for me, I think it's the kind of the act of ownership, I think, of like the fact of owning music. And I also really appreciate the kind of the thought that goes into creating a record, like from the art to the packaging, to your notes, all that stuff that I don't think you get necessarily, or it's not as cool anyway on CDs.
Yeah.
And and especially like in terms of record collecting, like I'm one to buy reissues sometimes, but I love finding originals or finding secondhand albums from back in the day that came out when it came out when that music was current, right? Yeah. And I think there's more. I kind of, for me anyway, and I know some people say it sounds superior. I'm not.
Well, and I wonder about that, because having grown up with vinyl and really through the 80s, I suppose, I've always felt that it was warmer is the word I use, but that could just be sentiment, because I mean, digital music in actual fact should be more accurate and actually have greater range, and you can do anything with, as far as the decay of the music, that how long it takes to kind of a note to die out. With earlier digital music, they'd cut it off a little short, and that would actually affect you wouldn't hear it so much as sense it. But that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, recordings are amazing. I got a better studio sitting in front of me on my computer than we worked in the 70s, in parts of the 70s.
I think the thing
and it cost me like a couple $100 for my program.
The thing I've noticed is that, obviously if you want anything good, you have to spend a bit of money, right? You don't have to spend too much, But one of the things that I've noticed is, you know, through streaming platforms, owning vinyl, having CDs, all of it, you know, for example, like my record player is Bluetooth. So if I put my phone into an auxiliary cable, I still get the amp and my speaker sound rather than just through my phone or my Bose speaker. And I hear things sometimes that are in songs that I've never heard before if I put on my headphones and I listen to vinyl. Just tones, a certain way somebody sings, and it's just, I don't know, they're like little Easter eggs. But I'm like Sharice, not an audiophile, but
Yeah.
I collected them only because my grandparents always listened to vinyl. My dad had a few that he always kept. He didn't have a record player at my house. He was a huge CD guy, always had the massive Kenwood speakers and loved music, loved obnoxious car stereo systems in really cheap cars. So it was very not paired. You know, like a Ford Tempo with like a $10,000 stereo system.
Oh yeah.
You know, like it just makes no sense. You just look like an idiot driving by. So anyways, but I think one of the things like Sharice said is for us, it's about going to look for them sometimes, the story that you get with them sometimes. Like we've had people on the show where like me and one of my good friends for almost like 15 years, Shelly, she works at Imperial Theater as one of the sound engineers. She got a record when she was first out on her own from a guy that lived in the same apartment building as her, and it was Deep Purple. Well, when I first left out on my own, I got some random record from a guy that lived there, and it was Deep Purple, Machine Head. So there's all these little, you know, reasons why people, I think, get into what they collect or what they like.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, Therese and I, even in the like our podcast will be 4 this year. We've been friends for about 5-6 years now, but I mean, just to give it a sense, I mean, when we first were really, really collecting, I mean, you could maybe buy a used Stampeders CD or a vinyl or like an April Wine, something like that for, you know, $10 maybe.
Yeah.
And now everything's $15-$20, even used.
Yeah.
Represses are, you know, $49.99 and up. So it's a lucrative business now. So even
well, they're antiques. They're not, you know, in limited supply as far as that goes, unless they're, you know, they can do, you know, new pressings and everything. But
and there is a shortage of vinyl, and now with things like Record Store Day, for example, they're now happening 3-4 times a year. So I think that if people stopped pressing the Fleetwood Mac rumors, not that I don't love the record, but if they stopped focusing on those and focused on some of them that don't get printed, on other bands that need to be able to print to vinyl that don't have the accessibility to it, right? I think Store Day, as much as I like it, I do think that they capitalize on and they monopolize the situation, and they definitely take the seniority of vinyl pressing. So
oh yeah. Well, that's the world of the wonderful world of business.
Like I'm buying your record on Record Store Day, but that's the only one I'm getting.
Yeah,
right?
Like when you first in the 70s, I'm sure it's true today too. But basically, you know, there was nothing like signing a deal with a big label. After we had Sweet City Woman, we signed with Capitol Records in the States and all that. Well, we went to LA and they took us to dinner, and there was 30 people at the dinner, and they picked us up at the airport in a limousine, and they wine and dine you, and you were paying for it all. When you finally get your royalty check, a few pages, you know, dinner at so-and-so's, and you pay for everything. The artist pays for everything on your, at least on your early deals. If you get really famous and big, then you can have things your way. But that was a big shock to find out that we were being treated really well, and they were all having a really good time, but it was at our expense.
On your bill, yeah. They were, right?
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. Yeah.
Now the way you can get even with them is be a flop.
There you go.
Yeah.
But is the revenge worth it though?
But then that guy,
No.
maybe the band sucks, right? And you don't want him to be right. Not even a guitar string. You don't need that energy in your life.
No, exactly.
You don't need that. I'm curious, Ronnie, could you tell us a little bit about your shirt? I'm curious. Your yeah.
Kim's coughing.
No, I was coughing. Yes. Like you said, though, don't worry, it's a wet cough.
Oh,
We're asking about your T-shirt. I know you were telling us about it before we hit record, but wondering.
Bless your heart. This is my good friend Stephanie Harp, who also has a band, the Stephanie Harp Experience, and so on. But more than that, she is an advocate and a speaker for more and more, even internationally and whatnot, and speaking on behalf of missing and murdered children, etc. And we're constantly in touch. She, in fact, she said, "I'm going to send you something." A few weeks ago, I said, "Well, what's that? Well, what's your address?" And I said, "Well, I live here, but I'm moving soon." So anyway, she sent me a package with sage in it.
Oh, wow.
Sage that had been blessed by the elders and so on else. And she says, "And when you get it, call me, okay? And I'll walk you and talk you through this, so on else." So she says, "Get yourself enough tobacco, enough for about 3 cigarettes worth, and you mix the sage and the tobacco, and get yourself a little whatever container, ashtray, what have you, and roll it all into a ball and so on else. Light it up and breathe and wave the smoke towards you, and that's smudging."
Right.
And I was able to smudge myself and so on.
I thought there was something different about you today. You look a little smudgy.
Yeah, and so as well, she said, "I'm going to send you a little pouch. So put a bit of the sage and tobacco in the little pouch and wear it all the time as well, you know." And so when you're doing the smudging, whatever, wish for the good things for yourself that you want to happen, or for the world, or what have you. And I said, "Well, what if my daughter and her mother are there? It's my ex, but we're still friends. Can I also involve them?" "Oh yeah, so when you want to smudge the other way, then you wave the smoke that way." Wow, that's so beautiful. And I said, I'm honored to, yeah. "And when you run out of sage, I'll send you some more, but I got to get it blessed." Okay. So anyway, she was very, very constantly always, she came to see us in south of Edmonton there, and stopped to chat and whatnot, and gave me a hug and a kiss at our autographs afterwards. But I introduced her from the stage, and I said, "And she's here, an advocate for missing and murdered children." And I dedicated my song, "Then Came the White Man," to her.
Yeah.
Someone else, and she said, I was so moved, I cried out there. I was crying. But not only is she talking for missing and murdered children and so on else, her mother was murdered as well. As
these are indigenous women and children you're talking about here. There's native people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't say that.
Oh. Well, anyway, so she herself was in a residential school and so on. So she said, "My brother and I were not the same when our father came to get us and to come out of there and so on else. We were not the same and so on else. So I sure appreciate you and Johnny Cass were the only ones to write songs on our behalf back in the day." And I said, "Yeah, I suppose you're right. I think I was before Gord Downey from, and what he did. That's beautiful and so on. But I was before that, and others were before me. I was influenced by a group called Paul Revere and the Raiders, called They Took the Whole Cherokee Nation, Put them on a reservation." I was influenced by that and so on else. And so I thought, wow, the Stampeders can play pretty good. Maybe I'll see if they can do this song. So anyway, the rest is history. And I've all my life, autograph sessions afterwards, always indigenous people coming up and thank you for caring about us and what have you. And touches me, brings me to tears sometimes.
Yeah.
In your, yeah, like you're re-recording the song you mentioned earlier, like doing a new rendition of it.
Yeah, I rewrote it a little bit and rewrote the bridge. The previous bridge was "So many moons ago, his Indian maiden," a little adolescent. So I've spruced it up a bit. Brothers and sisters, with the dawning of a new age, if we bother to listen, there's a calling. What can we change? Got to save a little something for future generations. Mother Nature's counting on us to preserve her conservation. Down, 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 then came the white man.
Right.
That's awesome.
I guess it goes to show how, good songs just stand the test of time.
Yeah.
Like, as you said, like, though you updated the lyrics, for the time a bit, like the sentiment and the message is still
It's going to
there.
be even more powerful.
It's going to be more powerful
Yeah.
perhaps now.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we can't wait to hear the new version. And if it's when this episode comes out, and if it's out, then we'll definitely share
Yeah,
it.
we'll
But
share it for
that's so
sure.
cool.
My Facebook page is Ronnie.King1.
Perfect.
Okay.
We'll link
Number
it
one.
out in the
And
show.
I'll be posting it probably this weekend. My editor is ready with it. Jeff Reed, his daughter works for Indian Affairs in North Bay and whatnot. It's got all sorts of pictures and everything to choose from. And he said, oh man, it's really coming along well. I've listened to it about 20 times by now. And so on. I said, well, great. But it's definitely bigger and so on. So I'm glad you'll look forward to it.
So before we go any further, where are we as far as time goes?
I think
Because
we're about on an hour.
Yeah,
So
we're
we
about an hour. Okay, well, I'm going to have to leave soon because I got a special day going on here today.
Oh my goodness.
My wife and I are going to a movie in a theater.
what?
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So that's it's an afternoon movie. So we're going to head out in about half an hour. So I'm going to beg off for now, but I want to tell you it's been a pleasure, and you by all means carry on with Cornelius.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you, and we can't wait to see you again in person in St. John.
Well, for sure, and it's been a pleasure. And
I think I'll beg off as well.
Right. Thank you so much, guys, both of you. It was an
Yeah.
honor, and being so generous with your time. We can't wait to see you guys again.
Yeah,
You'll
we
see you
very much-
soon.
yeah.
Not see you later. Yeah.
thanks a lot.
We'll be
Thank
hitting you up when we get the record to just show it to you.
All right.
Let's do it again sometime.
Yes, please.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Yay.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Good show. Bye-bye. All right.